Your 20s are literally there to help you build a foundation that can buy you freedom in your 40s. Every decision you make in that time of your life is going to compound harder than it ever will again. In your 40s, you'll just have these huge realizations that you should have started earlier. People rarely lack opportunity, and there is a psychology around delay. Because what most people think is that danger lies in making a bad investment. And sure, there is always going to be a risk. But the real danger, welcome to Rich and Regulated, where women learn to build wealth in alignment and flow. I'm Jessica Soul. For over a decade, I've helped women create the lives of their dreams, and here I'll share how I build wealth, fast-track results, and reveal money truths that will blow your mind. Let's get wealthy. I don't know about you, but I have never really been very good at listening to my parents, despite some really high-quality advice that they have given me over the years. And so I am going to try to give you some advice that maybe your parents haven't given you, or some advice that maybe they have given you but you haven't listened to today. And this is something that a lot of people won't tell you, is that your 20s are not just for figuring it out. Your 20s are literally there to help you build a foundation that can buy you freedom in your 40s. I wish I knew this when I was 20, and now as a 41-year-old woman, I am here to teach you so that you can avoid the mistakes that so many people are making. You know, when you're in your 20s, these years are so beautiful in terms of setting yourself up so that when you're in your 30s and 40s, you can live in a calm and less chaotic way. What most people do is they waste that decade between their 20s and 30s, and they actually don't understand that it could have made them rich, regulated, and so well resourced for the future. And instead, we're out chasing quick dopamine hits instead of compounding our returns. And they mistake living their life for leaking their future wealth. And so, look, 20-year-olds are going to tell themselves, it's time to enjoy life. But at the end of the day, what I want you to know is what that is doing is it's really avoiding responsibility in the name of fun. And trust me, I love having fun, but you do not want to be like so many people who hit 40 or 45 and realize that their life is costing them more than they thought. They realize that they've worked for 20 years and they look around at their life and they feel completely trapped. Time is so much shorter than you might imagine, and opportunity when it comes to wealth creation really doesn't care about your excuses. And what will happen is that in your 20s, there is so much noise and it can drown out. And what you can find is that in your 40s, you'll just have these huge realizations that you should have started earlier. So what I want you to understand is that your 20s are the cheapest decade you are ever going to get. And what I mean by that is not because it's easy, not because you're earning tons of money, but because every decision you make in that time of your life is going to compound harder than it ever will again. Every choice, every investment, every habit is a seed that you are planting. And the younger you plant it, the stronger those roots are going to grow. So I want to take a moment to talk you through the numbers, because a lot of people don't understand how powerful compounding really is. And so let's take a look at you starting to invest approximately $500 a month at the age of 21 in something that earns you around 10% a year. This is roughly the 50-year average of the S&P 500. And so by the age of 45, you would have accumulated around $380,000. And by the age of 55, you would have compounded over $1 million. Now let's flip this. If you wait until you are 40 to start that same rhythm, that same $500 a month, that same 10% return, you will barely have $190,000 by the age of 55. Now, let that sink in, right? The same age, 55 years old, $190,000 or $1 million. Literally, that is 20% of what you could have had just by starting earlier. And we haven't even started to talk about higher risk sectors like crypto yet. So this is just traditional compounding. So let's imagine if you took this same disciplined rhythm and paired it with something like Bitcoin. Even averaging out through the crashes and through the rebounds and all of the chaos that can come with something inside of blockchain, you would still be sitting at $4 to $5 million by the age of 55. So same decade, same amount of money, just a completely different outcome. And this, guys, has nothing to do with luck. This is purely about positioning and understanding that the earlier you start and the more time you give your compounding a chance to work, the more you are going to earn. And guys, if this is going right over your head, I have a free community that you can come and be a part of. We debunk a lot of stuff in there. There is so much information. So head to the link below and come and join the conversation there. So there are so many reasons why speed matters. And when you're young, the compounding effect doesn't just grow your wealth, it also accelerates your confidence. It helps you understand risk tolerance, and it also helps with recovery speed. So a simple and disciplined decision made at 21 will multiply 10 times harder than the same decision made at 35. And when you're young, let me tell you, you can afford to learn through mistakes and through movement in charts. You can take a hit, you can recalibrate, and you can keep going with ease. You know, you've got the energy, you've got the time, you've got the flexibility, and at the end of the day, you're creating things that money can't buy later. You may not have children and you may not be tied down by family and budgets and mortgages at that age. And so your risk tolerance is actually the edge that you have above the 40 and 50-year-olds. The problem is that most young people just don't understand numbers. Their parents probably don't even understand numbers. And I'm actually working with people in their 40s and 50s that have young people and they do not know how to teach them these strategies. So young people will tell themselves stories like, I'll start when I'm earning more money, or I'll wait until I can find the time, and I just need the right mentor, or I need more clarity first. And look, if your parents never taught you how to have clarity, let this be the lesson that they should have given you. Clarity does not come from thinking, it comes from moving. It comes from sitting down with a spreadsheet and saying, what if I just started now? Let's take a look. Even if you only started with $200 a month, you'll put yourself in a position where you are miles ahead of most people you know. And every single day that you delay, you are literally going to be paying what I call an invisible tax. And that is the tax of the opportunity that you've lost. So here's what it means in real life. The 25-year-old who invests $1,000 can turn it into $10,000 easily. But the 45-year-old who invests the same 1,000 will barely have the chance to double it in their lifetime. And when you understand this, you're going to stop saying, I'll start soon, and instead start realizing that soon is actually now. The thing is that people rarely lack opportunity, and there is a psychology around delay. Because what most people think is that danger lies in making a bad investment. And sure, there is always going to be a risk, but the real danger is making no investment at all. And the real danger is being so terrified of being wrong that you sit out of the way, you sit out of the very game that could set you free for life. And so what young people do is they tell themselves that they're being smart by waiting. And I can tell you that you are not. Literally, you're scared and you're waiting until you earn more, until you know more, until you feel ready. And this is literally how mediocrity disguises itself as maturity. And at the end of the day, it's the paralysis in pretty language, right? And it's very expensive for the younger generation. And so every year that you're delaying is going to double the effort that you need to make down the track. I let that sink in. Every decade you wait will probably 10x the price that you will pay, not just financially, but mentally. Because when you don't have the freedom with your finances, everything in your life is going to suffer. Your choices, your relationships, the way you can raise a family, regret will compound. And that's the one thing that people don't measure is the emotional interest rate on self-betrayal and on lack of discipline and lack of education around the compounding effect. So at 40 years old, when you know that you could have been further along, I can tell you from experience, you are going to carry that burden in your nervous system, and it's going to be sitting under every decision you make. It becomes that background hum of I'm behind, I've lost time. And the real kicker with that is that the earlier you start, the earlier you can afford to rest, right? You know, this whole idea of retiring at 40 is actually a huge possibility for people that start in their 20s. Just quickly, guys, if you're a woman who's earning well but still feels like your money isn't working for you, I can help. My Build Your Wealth portal is the perfect place to begin, and for less than $100 a month, I'll teach you the exact groundwork that has allowed me to create freedom for my family. Just hit the link in the show notes to connect into my community today. Now back to the episode. All right, so now I'm talking to the ladies for a minute, and we're going to go there. Girls, girl math, financial immaturity, right? Like, we live in a world where women are spending so many hours on Pinterest boards, manifesting their dream life, cutting out little pictures and creating vision boards, spending thousands of dollars on skincare and anti-wrinkle treatments, long brunches, Bali trips. And look, I'm not saying you can't look good, but what I want for you is for you to be good with your numbers, because it is not cute being broke. And ladies, let's be honest. You've got a portal between your legs that brings life into this world, and you still tell yourself that you cannot read a basic investment return chart? I mean, come on. You don't lack intelligence. What you lack is intimacy with your numbers. So when you build intimacy with your numbers, what you are actually doing is understanding how the numbers work, and it becomes sexy as fuck, right? So having a spreadsheet that tells you what your money is doing is not boring. It is far more exciting than any Pinterest board or trip to Bali will ever be, because what you are going to do is create sovereignty and power and proof that you know what is happening behind the scenes with your own life. That is financial femininity at its highest frequency. This is you not being rescued, but being resourced. So if you are in your 20s, you have 2 full decades ahead of people like me, right? So if you're sitting in the prime of your compounding window with your entire life ahead of you, let me tell you that this is not the decade to go out and find yourself. This is the decade to fund yourself. Spend money on learning how to become an investor. Hire a mentor who can show you how to structure, automate, and protect your assets. Learn how to read your own financial dashboard. Start building literacy before luxury. Heal your money trauma. Because I can tell you that if you don't do this work now, you will just repeat this cycle when you earn more. You'll make more and more money, and you will still feel broke. You'll build businesses, but you'll never build reserves. And once you make the decision to start, you literally will not turn back. Trust me. Like, you don't touch your money, you don't flirt with the withdrawal. You act as if the money that you are compounding doesn't exist, and you just let it do its quiet yet relentless work in the background. And let me tell you, ladies, this is how the wealthy operate. They don't check their funds every week. They don't get emotional about the charts. They just sit back, they build, and they automate. They trust the time and the compounding effect. So if you are in your 20s, I want you to know that every choice really, really matters, and it is going to buy you optionality later. The women who invest early, they don't actually have to hustle forever. And I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty damn sexy to me, right? That woman gets to move slower later because she moved faster now. She gets to travel. She gets to parent without guilt. She gets to rest. She gets to lead, not from burnout, but from a place of overflow. She gets to make decisions from a calm place because her foundations are all automated, and her future is not reactive. It's literally regulated. And what woman doesn't want that? So the woman who doesn't is going to spend her 40s playing catch up, and she's going to be looking at people half her age, wondering how they did it, never realizing that they simply started while she was still debating in her mind whether to make a move or not. And so if you want to learn from someone who's done this, there is a link in the show notes waiting for you. It is a free community where all of your questions will be answered. And no, let me tell you, you do not have to choose between old and new systems, right? So my recommendation, write this down, ladies, is play in both old and new. Let something like the S&P 500 compound securely for you, the slow, steady, and kind of, to me, boring way of building wealth. And then dive into crypto, right? And let that compound as an acceleration strategy, right? And what this will do is it's this asymmetric upside that can collapse decades of time, right? It's super, super powerful. And this is how you diversify like an intelligent investor, not just by asset class, but by velocity. So one engine will be building stability and the other is building with speed. This is not what we call risk. This is what I call rhythm. So don't waste the decade in your 20s when the world expects nothing of you, doing nothing. Use that to your advantage. While no one's watching, build quietly. While everyone else is showing off their lifestyle, stack your leverage. You're 2 decades ahead of most people that are listening to these podcasts. And what I want you to know is you have so much time to become a self-made millionaire, but only if you use it. Every dollar you invest in your 20s is going to become a soldier for your future. And every habit you build becomes an employee. Every disciplined decision becomes proof that you can trust yourself so deeply. And so instead of saying, I've got time, I want you to know you don't. What you have is opportunity, and it is expiring daily. So invest early, invest often, invest in a wide enough range so that your money feels both safe and acts as rocket fuel. Because the goal isn't to be rich by 30, it's to be free by 40. If you're in your 40s or 50s and you have young adults around you, whether they're your children or people that you know, I highly encourage you to send this along to them to listen to. This could literally change the trajectory of their whole life. If you've gotten value from today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave a 5-star review. And if you're ready for more support in building regulated wealth strategies, check out the link in the show notes. Have a beautiful day.